In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, and welcome to America in Black and White, Season 4, Episode 105. Tonight, we gather once again in the sacred space where truth is spoken, history is honored, and the full breadth of Black life in America is placed center stage. Not as a footnote, to someone else's story, but as the headline. We are in Season 4, and if you have been with us on this journey, you already know we don't do surface level. We go deep, we go real, we go where the healing lives. Tonight's conversation sits at the intersection of violence prevention, behavioral health, public health, and the kind of community transformation that doesn't come from press releases. It comes from people who have planted themselves in the soil of struggle and refuse to leave until something bloomed. We live in a time when communities across this nation, Black communities in particular, are navigating crises that are as much spiritual as they are systemic. The wounds are real, the grief is generational, but so is the genius. So is the resilience, and tonight, that resilience has a name, a face, and a story that deserves to be heard by every city, every neighborhood, every household that has ever wondered whether transformation was truly possible. We turn our eyes tonight to Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, a community in the greater Pittsburgh area that has known hardship and has known glory in equal measure. Wilkinsburg is a place that has produced extraordinary human beings, people whose roots run so deep in faith, family, and community commitment that no wind of circumstance could pull them loose. It is the kind of place that shapes you, hardens you in the right ways, and sends you into the world, not just as a survivor, but as a servant. And it is from those streets, those churches, those family tables that tonight's guest was forged. He is a nationally recognized leader in violence prevention and behavioral health. He is an entrepreneur, an executive, a healer, and a son of Wilkinsburg. His work spans sectors and touches lives in ways that policy papers cannot fully capture. Because his approach has always been rooted in the truth that people are more than their pain, they are the possibility that lives on the other side of it. He carries the legacy of his father, Robert Watson, his mother, Shirley Watson, and his uncle, Ralph Watson, three pillars who poured purpose into him before the world ever knew his name. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to welcome to America in Black and White, Mr. Ross A. Watson Jr.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I
Just
am excellent.
one correction. They're my grandparents. Shirley
Your
and Robert
grandparents.
are my grandparents. Yes.
Okay, well, my apologies for that. Please forgive me.
No problem.
So, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we get into the show?
Oh no, I'm humbled to be here, and I appreciate the invite. And that was a heck of an introduction. This is my first live stream podcast, so bear with me. A little nervous here.
Well, I'm sure you have nothing to be nervous about, but it's the people that's got to listen to this wonderful story and these things. You got to tell them about what you're doing in the community that's so possible. Let's start with as usual, I like to go into what I call your life story and roots, and we're going to talk about your roots in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. Take us back
Yeah.
to the beginning. What was it like growing up in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania? And what is the first memory that comes to mind when you hear the name of your hometown?
I grew up in the '90s, and it was gang time in Wilkinsburg. There was a lot of gang affiliation at that point. When I think of Wilkinsburg, I think of the baseball parades. The whole community would come together, and they would all start down at the Wilkinsburg Library and walk about a mile and a half to go to the Turner baseball field. So that was probably my first memories of Wilkinsburg because I played baseball around 5 or 6 years old. So that was my fonding memory of Wilkinsburg and just how the community came together as a hub. Um, and it was just a peaceful time and a friendly time when the baseball parade was going about.
So, Wilkinsburg has rich and layered Black history. How did that history show up in your daily life growing up, and did you understand its significance at that time?
So I'll answer that question in reverse. I did not understand it at the time, the significance at the time. I didn't understand the significance of Wilkinsburg probably until I left and then I came back. And that's when I started realizing the essence and the richness of Wilkinsburg and who it made me. Um, Wilkinsburg and my grandparents moved to Wilkinsburg in 1966, and Wilkinsburg was a prominent place. It's where doctors, lawyers, pharmacists, professionals lived. My grandmother was a stay-at-home wife, and my grandfather was the breadwinner. He worked at the steel mill. He was a veteran, the Korean War, um, and so moving into Wilkinsburg in 1966, being one of 9 Black families in that community, it meant something. So just being the third generation to come on about in the Wilkinsburg, it was a significance. There was a shift in Wilkinsburg, and I'd say mid to late '80s when yeah, you call it white flight came about, and so uh, but Wilkinsburg is a very unique place because we are right outside of the city of Pittsburgh, but a lot of people associate us with the city of Pittsburgh because we're so close to the city of Pittsburgh. But there's a lot of greatness in Wilkinsburg. It's centrally located for the most part in Allegheny County, which is the county that Pittsburgh is in. You're about 20 to 25 minutes away from everything.
So, every community has its gifts and its challenges. What were the greatest gifts that Wilkinsburg gave you, and what were the challenges that ultimately shaped you?
Wilkinsburg made me tough. You can't be soft coming from Wilkinsburg. Yeah, you go get beat up. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that come in there. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of hate. It's just like any other community. But it's a community. I wasn't too involved in the gangs and stuff. My grandma kept me away from that kind of thing because she kept me active, and my dad as well kept me active in sports and other extracurricular activities. But I grew up playing in the streets, playing with kids, and all of that stuff. But yeah, man, it was one of the ones that make you. It hardens you. Um, it'll humble you, and then they motivate you at the same time. It's a great place. Don't let the media and the hype, put it down because Wilkinsburg is a beautiful place to be, a beautiful place to live, a beautiful place to raise your children and your family. What was the second question that you asked me? So I want to make sure I answer that.
Um, the gifts that it gave you, and what were the challenges that ultimately shaped you?
The gifts that it gave me, it was pride. Be proud of where you're from and who you are and how you grew up. Be proud of the friends that you have. Be proud of the street that you lived on. Be proud of your household. My grandparents instilled that as well. Be proud of who you are. Your last name means something, and where you from and who you are. It means something. It doesn't define who you are, but it helps shape and create that foundation of what and who you are and who you will be. The challenges I would say is the stigma. There's that stigma that because you're from Wilkinsburg, you're expected to be less than, and that's not true. Because you're from Wilkinsburg, you're expected to be, in lack of terms, ghetto, criminal, etc. And that's not accurate. There's a lot of great people that are born and raised and from Wilkinsburg and come back to give back to Wilkinsburg.
So, do you guys have any of that Pittsburgh Steel City mentality going on there,
Oh, you
where
know, yeah,
it's
yeah.
that typical blue collar city
Hey,
that's always giving and it's got that hard work in it?
you better say it. If you fall down 9 times, you better get up 10 to 11. We ain't gonna stay down. Absolutely.
You know, that's one thing I can say. I actually just kind of like touched going into Wilkinsburg, but you know, every time, well, when I lived in Washington D.C., I used to always come to Pittsburgh for Pittsburgh Steelers home games.
Okay.
And so, in going around the city at that time, you know, before it started to change and to grow and expand, you know, you could see the toughness.
Yeah.
And so it's like one of those cities that really, I don't even know how to even describe it, but you know, you can tell that, you know, with the toughness that there's got to be a lot of love.
Hmm. Yeah. It's Pittsburgh is a very unique place because it's we had the Great Migration in the early 1920s and 30s when you had people coming up from the South and the Midwest. It's a Midwest Southern twang, but we're considered an East Coast. But you figure like West Virginia's 45 minutes away, Ohio's 45 minutes away, Virginia's 2 to 3 hours away, Baltimore, Maryland is 2 to 3 hours away. So not far from a lot. New York is an hour, 2 hours away from us. So, but we're a very unique type of area. It's not Philadelphia, which is like breaded, East Coast, like
Yeah.
right next to Jersey and Delaware and New York. But Pittsburgh is second to none. We tough nose, blue collar area. There's a reason why we create great football players coming out of Western Pennsylvania. There's a reason why we create greatness and a lot that we touch coming out of here. And when we expand and go to other cities and other countries, we thrive.
Right. So, who were the neighborhood figures outside of your immediate family who made a lasting impression on you as a young man growing up in Wilkinsburg?
Outside of my family, I'd say across the street, Miss Maryland, Reverend Black, she passed away. She gave me my first job. My grandparents and my dad used to always make me do like cutting grass and change the brakes, and all of that was like a part of my life. If you want those Jordans, you better go cut some grass. You better go change your brakes. You better go do something. You ain't gonna just get Jordans because you want them. You're gonna work for it. So she used to watch me like wash the cars, change brakes, and just do different things. So she was like, "Hey," she used to call me Junior because my dad's Ross Senior. So she would say, "Hey, Junior, come over here. Why don't you come over here and cut my grass? Come over here and do this and do that." And she would give me odd ends. So basically, I became her maintenance man, probably from the time that I was about 10 or 11 till the time that she passed away. I would go in there and paint her house. I actually renovated her kitchen with my dad before. We put furnaces in. When my family owns a plumbing and HVAC company, so we did furnaces and ACs and sinks and bathtubs and hot water tanks, all that. But for me, she would always be like, "Come over here and clean my basement out. I want you to paint the basement floor. I want you to paint the walls. I want you to do this. I want you to do that." So she gave me my first job. So I'd say Miss Marilyn Black was one of the first. The Barksdales, I lived across the street as well. They always made sure that I was doing what I needed to do and what I was supposed to be doing. The Turners, Aunt Viv is what I call her. Uncle Jimmy is what I call him. Their son that's my brother, Brandon Turner. They always made sure when I be on Clark Street, which is the Clark Ave, the next street up, that I was always good. That they took care of me. The Thompsons, Big Kurt, they would always make sure I was okay. So I had a community of folks. The Hendersons, Rashad Henderson was one of my childhood friends. His parents. I had a lot of people that always took a liking to me and took a an interest in me and seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself. Jason Johnson, he was older than me, about 4 or 5 years older than me, but he always made sure I didn't do the dumb stuff because when I would be trying to be in stuff that I wasn't supposed to be in, be like, your grandma kick, she kicked your butt if she seen you doing that. Boy, go take your butt home type thing. So, a lot of people that just made sure I stayed on the path that my grandma wanted.
That sounds like what we're talking about here today. And for the things that you do when we talk about community, because that was real community, and those are things that I can remember because I was born in 1966, and it was the community that raised you. And when you think about this community experience, what has it taught you today that you value more than anything?
You can't do it by yourself. It's a holistic approach. It's a village, and that's a true statement. Everybody, it takes a village to raise one child, and then they pour back into that village. So it's holding that weight and holding those people accountable. So I literally would say that village mentality is key, because when you isolate yourself or put yourself in a silo perspective, you don't have any success with that.
Right. Describe the culture of Wilkinsburg as you experienced it. The sounds, the smells, the spirit of the neighborhood. What does home feel like when you close your eyes and go back?
Sounds like kids playing loud music from the speaker, from sound systems in cars, loud engines, gunshots. That was a part of the thing. Pizza shops, restaurants, Jamaican restaurants, people arguing, people laughing, cookouts, food. Oh man, I could tell a football game up a ground field. I could hear it from my house. Touchdown, such and such. Yeah, it's just an essence of like, it's like a sunshine kind of thing. I know there was a lot of bad, right? But like, we're going to harp on the good right now with that question. Just the community coming together and striving to be great, and not even knowing that they're striving for that greatness, and a community not even realizing that they are truly that, a community. It was split with cliques, gangs, whatever you want to call it, but when it came down to it, the community boggled down together and persevered.
So, were there moments in your childhood or adolescence in Wilkinsburg where you witnessed violence or trauma firsthand? And how did those experiences plant the seeds for the work you do today?
Yeah, there was a lot going on growing up. Like I said, there was shootings, homicides, shootings in the alley, walking home, hearing gunshots running, type of thing from school. You hear about people that you knew that got killed or got shot. People going to jail for shooting and killing somebody. Experienced some things, witnessed some things when I was at my mom's house domestically, or just in that environment that was more violent. And so just seeing how that stuff was happening and how it was normalized, or overshadowed by whatever the next shiny object was by the media. Like, these are people's lives that are impacted. You hear about one gunshot victim, but there's multiple people that are impacted by that. Not just the victim, but the victim's family and the people that knew that person, the people that worked with that person, loved that person, cared about that person, and even the perpetrator, if you want to call them that, the shooter, that their lives are impacted in a way. And so how those negative things impacted our communities and on our day-to-day lives, and the exposure that we see of the disease of violence, and how we process it, and how we have to numb ourselves to be able to cope through it. And that could be through substance abuse. That could be through re-traumatizing someone else, where the victim becomes the villain, or hurt people hurting people, if you want to call it that. But just seeing that and understanding it, but then you see people that are claiming that they want to do work to assist with that, to help with that, but they have no lived experience or don't know what that feels like to live in that environment, or just to be exposed to that directly or indirectly. But how how violent has no boundaries. It has no barriers. You never know when it's going to be at your door in your house. And so a lot of people think that, oh, that happened in that community, or that happened on that street, or that happened to that family. And they don't think that it impacts them because they block it out, they push it away. They don't see it as something that is prevalent to them. And then until it happens to them, and then they go in crisis mode. It's never been like this before. This never happened until this, that. And it's like, well, it was right next door, and you said it couldn't happen to you because it didn't knock on your door. But it started off the next community over, down the block, on the street, next door. Now it's in your house, and you like, how did this happen? Because it happened 3 years ago, and you ignored it. And so now it's here smacking you in your face, and you like, I don't know what to do. I need help. No, there's nobody out here to help, when there's actually people that have been out there helping for abundance of years, that have been beating down the doors, have been begging people to help, have been begging people to assist, been begging for funding so they can pay for activities to do for kids, or activities to do for individual high risk individuals. There's been an abundance of things. And then when obviously when funding comes through and it becomes a money grab, and it gets perverted, then other people that have alternative motives come in and do something that grandma been doing. Grandma been making plates for people. Grandma been telling people to come in the house and have a meal and break bread. Grandma been saying, y'all two boys go ahead and fight, but ain't gonna be no jump. Y'all can come in and grab some fried chicken and eat a sandwich, and y'all talk about, after y'all fight, y'all talk it through. Now y'all the best of friends, and y'all move on. There's none of that type of stuff going on now, because these nonprofit organizations or these government entities come into play and say, we want to help you. And they're doing it through a funding initiative, through a grant funded aspect. And so what they'll do is they'll come in, do needs assessments and research theories, and then get what they need and then leave. And now these people in this community have opened up and thinking like, oh, this is going to be a long-term thing, when it's a short-term impact. And then they're still left with the people that have been doing it for free, and they got nothing from it. So it was literally like getting tired of seeing that. You know what I mean? I was tired of seeing, oh, well, we're doing a theory on it. We're doing a research on it. Well, this is what the community is saying that they need. Well, if you're saying that this is what they need, well, then do it. Why you need to research that out if they saying there's no activities for the kids? Create some activities for them.
Look, what you're saying, I agree with you, and I can understand exactly where you're going when you say that. And I think this is the thing that make a lot of people, feel some type of way when it comes to just government services in general, is because you already know demographics, you already know what is happening. And when somebody says that this is what's needed, they make you jump through hoops and run around the corner before they decide if they want to say yes or no, when they already know the answer.
Absolutely. Because it's busy.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's just busy work, man. It's you want to call it bureaucracy, you want to call it whatever you want to call it. It is. It's not okay.
Right.
If you're saying to me, I'll use analogies a lot. You're saying that if you go down that street, there's a pothole, there's a crater in the middle of the street. Avoid that crater, right? So they're going to come out and say, we're gonna get some funding to have somebody come and measure the crater, the depth of it. Okay, and then we got to get some other funding to get the material to fill that crater. But before that, we got to get funding to get a steel plate to cover the crater. Oh, wait, but before we do that, we got to get tape. We got to get funding to tape it off to let you know that this crater is here. and then we'll start again. And then people keep falling to this crater, and then the right person falls. There you got your funding. Now that crater it's packed and you good because the right person fell and the right person got hurt. And now all of a sudden, everybody, that crater got filled real fast. You know, and it's like the same thing that I used to say. I mean, I get it. You got insurance policies, you got life insurance policies, all that stuff. But would it be like, you know, when bad things happen and good, not impoverished or sustainable or high economic communities, there's abundance of funding.
Yes.
But when bad things happen in impoverished communities and dilapidated, if they want to call, they don't want to say that, but it happens in the ghetto, we got to go fund me. Yeah. It doesn't make sense, right? And it's like, how do you change that? Yeah, you can get a life insurance policy for people and pay for that. Yes, that's a great thing, right? But if we're just going to keep it superficial and baseline and surface level, when you say, like I just said, if something happens in a community where the average income median is just 100 household is $300,000, and they get kids speeding, drunk driving, crashes, and it's terrible. Let me say that's terrible. And they get into a car accident and they die, or they commit suicide, whatever it is, right? The school shuts down. All of these service providers come in, do grievance counseling. They get a week off from school, virtual learning days now. They get therapists, they get psychologists, they get psychiatrists, they get group sessions, they get emotional break rooms and all this other stuff. And that's great. And then the family gets additional funding to bury the child, to grieve the child, to assist the child, to do these different things, and as they should. But then in that same aspect, that ghetto child, that black child, that baby was shot inadvertently in the drive-by or whatever it was, the reason why, however they died. Family got to do a GoFundMe. They got to go and find different things to pay for the funeral cost. These kids don't get the same experience of the grievances, right? It's like they died, you get the day off, go back to school the next day and act like nothing happened. Or they're traumatized. There's trauma in that. There's a catastrophe that happened. They don't know how to process that. And so now they're going to, and they don't know how to deal and handle their emotions. So from that, you get anger, you get pain, you get sadness. And in a lot of communities, you're not really allowed to express that fully. And so you have to bottle that in, and bottle that emotion in, you become more angry and you become more distant. And then you get more violence.
You know, I think that's one of the things that leads to the thing that, a lot of, places, organizations have been putting a lot of a light on mental health, because mental health is becoming a real serious issue. And this is one of the things, as you mentioned, in our communities, these are some things that are really, really rampant. It's pertinent, and it's also something that's real because it's a real reality that you see it every day. So when we think about that, let's go over to the work that you do in that area, and let's talk about this violence prevention and public health. So you operate from the framework that violence is a public health crisis. For those who are hearing that framing for the first time, break it down for us. What does it mean to treat violence the way we treat a disease, and why does that paradigm shift matter so much?
Well, I took a break from violence prevention. I gotta be honest with you. That is my passion. That is my purpose. But there was it depends on how the conversation goes. I needed to take a break from that. But what I will say to you about the disease of violence and how violence acts as a disease, it clusters like anything else, any other disease. And so from that experience, you figure if we look at COVID, tuberculosis, the flu. The only way you can contract that disease is your direct exposure to it. And that's
Right.
how violence is. So if you go look at violence as that infectious disease, if I do something to you and your family knows, or your people that care about you know, and two of them do something to me, and then four of my people found out and they do something to yours, and then 8, and then 16, and then 32, and then 64, and then whoosh, you got a whole community integrated, and then there's violence immersed in this violence that's there. And so that's how it spreads like a disease. And so,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So when you're looking at it from that public health approach, the only real way to intervene in that is to have people with those lived experiences, people that were exposed to that disease of violence, people that were from those communities, people that understand that, not just from an intellectual aspect, but just from common sense, right? Like common sense goes a long way. So you got a person, we'll just say from Wilkinsburg, that was a high risk individual that was in the streets, that was in the violence, that was doing these things, that was doing that. And then they had a shift in their life. They matured, they changed. They got some help. They got a job. They got to see the world differently. And so now they can go and look at their younger self and be like, little such and such, young such and such, I was right where you was at. I grew up on these same blocks. I grew up on these same street. They got that credibility to be like, oh, that was such and such. That was that person. He was that dude. And then he made a change. So that you have that credibility, you got that understanding to a certain extent, and being able to have real impact and have real change when someone knows that you come from where I come from the exact way. My peoples that I look up to know you and respect you. I'm going to listen to you because of that credibility aspect. And that's in essence of how I got involved with the violence prevention, because being a change agent, you have to have other change agents, and you have to bring a whole plethora of a team to come into a accord and to attack this disease of violence, like I said, from a holistic aspect. But it starts from that connectivity, from that rapport, from that understanding of it, and it takes time. And so, starting from scratch in 2019 and getting people that had like-minded aspects and could see the vision, we were able to expand it in Allegheny County and started in Wilkinsburg, and then it expanded all through Allegheny County. The program that I brought in from Chicago.
So, do you mind, even though you say you're not working in violence prevention, do you mind discussing that though?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, can you tell us what are the most effective violence prevention strategies you have seen actually work at the community level, and what do those strategies have in common that makes them different from the approaches that fail?
Street intervention is a big factor. Like street intervention, like I said, they have what we were calling them violence interrupters. So we were utilizing the Cure Violence Global model, which is based out of Chicago. It started formulated under Dr. Slugkin. And so from that model, it was just having trained violence interrupters to interrupt the transmission of the disease of violence. And so those trained violence interrupters were people that were ex-gang members, been in jail for violence offenses, credible people in that community, a lot of in Wilkinsburg and Pittsburgh in general. Coaches are usually the violence interrupters, because the coaches, youth coaches, are the ones that have the kids' ears, that have spent a lot of time with the kids, that dedicate a lot into the kids. So getting them to be trained on how to mediate conflict, they already did it, but to do it from a clinician aspect, mixing that behavioral health, mixing their street knowledge, mixing mental health aspects into it, and then jumbling all up and given them the tools that they needed to be successful. But then having outreach workers, which were like service coordinators, that were also from the community, that were also high risk individuals, that were also credible messengers, who can say, okay, my light's about to be turned off. How you gonna help me? And being able to connect them right then and there and walk them through it and stay with them and not have you only got 6 months of this program, and then if you don't complete all this in 6 months, you're done. Oh, I only got you for a year, and if you don't complete all of these steps in a year, you're done. No, this is we stand with you until you complete what you need to complete, and then we going on to the next thing to get you to be away from this street life that you engaged in and involved in. Because yes, we was there, and we was there not that long ago, about maybe a year or two ago, and that we still tapped in with the high. And when I say highest risk, I don't mean like at risk. I mean the ones that's shooting, the ones that's killing, the ones that's getting shot at. Those are the highest risk individuals. So when you know that this person is connected to a high risk individual and they're working with me and the team, it's a credible situation, right? And so it's not always about a job. So you got 7, I'm just stereotype a situation. You got 7 kids and you in arrears for child support, $200,000. I ain't about to go and work nowhere and you gonna take all my check. Or I ain't about to go work nowhere and I go to jail. So what we about to do? Right. So, but if I'm like, look, there's these workforce development programs that we got that can get you in, they can help you get your arrears lessened or help you get less out of your check. That there's programs and things that we can get. So you can keep 70%, and they take 30. Or how about this? Since you paying child support, why don't we try to get you custody? Because that's really what it comes down to. You want to get your kids. You just didn't know. You just got to go down to court and fight for custody. She sued males. I'm thinking males. She sued you for child support. But if you go down there and file for custody, child support gets lessened. Because child support is just child support. Custody is a different thing. Go there and get custody of your kid. So, teaching them those things and understanding that. And like, I've been where you at. Like, this is where we go. This is how you go. This is what you do. And actually being like, damn, that, yeah, dude been there before. Like, dude knows what he's talking about. And he's going to court with me. And he's going there. And he's doing this. And he's taking me. They're taking me here. They're bringing me here. We're doing this and we're doing that. And you're like, well, damn, like, yeah, they get it. And that's the most efficient thing. But the problem with that is, can I curse on this? I don't want to know.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Perverted. You know what I'm saying? Like, the shit get perverted when other nonprofits see that there's money involved with this. And that's when I'm sorry, I gotta just be frank. It fucks shit up. Like, it really do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'd be like, wait a minute. Man, we've been doing this for free. And you come in, we wrote some grants, and you got your little funky ass $1 million, and now you want to come in here and implement some shit that ain't gonna work. Because what we've been doing, it been working. We've been doing the pop-up cookouts, we've been doing the community days, we've been doing peace walks, we've been doing all this shit. Other organizations that's been doing it off the muscle, been doing it, but now you come in here and now you want to be the white knight and the white savior. Man, ain't nobody, and then you pervert. You kind of fuck up the credibility of the people that was really doing it because they work for your dumbass organization. That's the dumb shit. And that's why I pulled away and was like, man, I ain't with that shit, man. That shit whack.
You know something?
My baby girl.
No, but
what
you're saying is the truth.
So I apologize, but that shit whack, man. That shit ass.
What you're saying is the truth because, I don't even know how to actually attack that because what you're talking about is I've dealt with that situation in a different way because there's a follow-up question to this.
Yeah.
But, when I last worked, for an actual company or what organization, whatever have you, I actually saw this and didn't think that this was real. I'm going back to when you talk about the child support thing.
Yeah.
I saw one guy from this company had 4 child support orders on him. And I didn't think you could do that because I'm like, is that real and can they do that? Come to find out that they can, which goes to the point of you saying, if they're taking all my money, why am I going to work? So when this dude found out that this happened, He quit and ran off to another state. So I think what you were talking about, what you guys were doing, were being like accountability partners, keeping these guys true to the game, true to themselves, and having them to be much better men. But these folk, as you say, come in with this whole new thing, turn things upside down, and now all of a sudden it's like, now you're going back to chaos and disorder.
Yep.
And the reason why you're going back to chaos and disorder is because they saw the prosperity of what you guys were doing, and they had to break that up like they did our families back in the 60s and 70s.
Absolutely.
That's what that was. And so they refused to have all these people doing the good things that they possibly can do and working within the system like you guys had them doing. Can you tell me something? When you guys were doing this and you saw the positivity and the great work that brought these people to the front and things were going well, when things started to change, what kind of change did you notice that caused this chaos and disorder?
All right, so we're going to go, and I ain't going to say no names because of legality purposes, and I ain't really got the time for the dumb stuff. So when I was in the government and I wrote some grants to get the pilot program up and running, and it got up and running in Wilkinsburg, and we only had 6 of us, and it jumped. And mind you, nobody wanted violence prevention because it put a bad stigma on. We don't got a violence thing, we don't have a violence thing in this county, in this city, in this area. Okay, yeah, you're right, you don't. But that's why your homicides keep going up by 20s. You going up 20 more homicides per year. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. You don't got no whatever. So I got the buy-in, which was great. Wrote some grants, some state and some federal and some local grants, and got a lot of funding. I would say from 2019 to about 2022, I had roughly around $3-4 million worth of grants, but all of it was for programmatic things. All of it was for pay for office space, obviously, materials, and then salaries. So the money goes to that, right? And then we started making headways. I started showing the deliverables and the measures. Okay, we're in Wilkinsburg. We're in part of Homewood a little bit. And we're in the Woodland Hills School District, which is like Rankin, Braddock, Swissvale, East Pittsburgh, Turtle Creek, and some other, just like 14 communities in there. But those are more the higher violence-stricken communities. And we rolled this program out. And you're like, damn, they showing 5 and 6 decreases in their community. So go back, Wilkinsburg is 2.3 mile radius with 15,000 people. Average median income is $36,000. They were averaging around 11 to 12 homicides a year. That's a lot in such a small community, right? And so at the time, Wilkinsburg had the most homicides out of one community in Allegheny County for like a 10-year stretch. And you're like, well, damn, that's a lot of people dying in this community. And that's not including the gunshot victims. And so you like, but then they dropped it. They dropped it lower. So mind you, COVID hit, right? I'm battling COVID too. Like I'm battling in the midst of COVID. And you like, well, shit, and show you how dedicated I was to this shit. Like it was like, my grandfather died July 11th. The grant was due July 11th. I'm sorry. The grant was due a week later. The grant was due a week later. I'm in the limo going to go say goodbye to my grandfather at the funeral, at the gravesite, submitting this grant. That's how dedicated I was to this shit. Because I knew my people needed it, right? So, and he would have been like, boy, you go to work. That's how my granddad was. Boy, you better take your ass to work. That's just how he was. I'm already in the ground. Don't miss no work. Don't miss no money out for me. Like that's just how my granddad was. So I'm like, damn, all right, cool. So I submit the grant. My very first grant, show you how my grandparents, they always blessing me. My grandmother died September 14th. Her birthday September 11th. September 14th, 2015, she passed. So in 2020, no, 2000, yeah, 2000, no, 2019. 2019, I wrote my very first grant, the first grant I ever wrote. And we were awarded September 14th, 2019. Ain't that wild? So
Oh wow.
yeah, so I'm like, oh yeah, we got this. So that started the pilot program for our cure violence version of cure violence, because we really couldn't implement it under a government entity. So we had to modify it, which was great, which is fun, because it was very raw and it's very in your face and it's very canted. It's like very hardcore hip hop, and they wanted the more safe way at the time, and that's cool, because they have to protect their brand as well. So we got the pilot program, and the goal was always get the pilot program up and running, show significance to it, get additional funding, and roll it out to community-based organizations that are already in these high identified, high crime, high violent areas throughout Allegheny County, and get the community buy-in. Skip all the middle part. I got that community buy-in. I identified the community-based organizations, and by 2023, we started off in 2019 as a pilot program. By 2023, we had 5 sites with over 70 people, violence interrupters, outreach workers, and supervisors and program managers. And I made sure, so I had my hand in around $70 to $72 million through SAMHSA grants, through PCCD, a state grant, federal grants, local grants, and just making sure that not only did these people from the community-based organizations, they had to hire people from their community, but they give them benefits, they give them PTO, they got workforce development, perform. What do you call? I'm losing my train of thought right now, but they got like professional development courses and things like that. And it was like, oh, Ross, you're doing a great job. And then I'm like, but now what? Right. So I partnered with Department of Human Services at the time, and we expanded it and brought it out. And then I went and contracted with a community-based organization in Wilkesburg to like oversee their program, to make sure that their program, because Wilkesburg, Homewood, East Hills, and Penn Hills were still the most, so 35% of the homicides coming from those communities in Allegheny County. And so it was like, Ross, can you go there and can you do this? And I'm like, oh, I left the health department. I was like, absolutely, I'll go there, because now you take the shackles off. Now I can just go and be me, right? Like there's like LeBron, you don't coach that. You just let him go play and he'll make it work. So I'm like, you don't coach, don't shackle me up. Let me go do my thing, because you see what I'm doing, even with the shackles on. No pun intended, because we ain't no damn slave. But you just do your thing, right? So you like, all right, well, cool. I did that, and then when the money really came in, it was just like you start seeing stuff, and you like, hey man, that ain't what we supposed to be doing money for this program, and then for that. And like I told you, I'm a change agent, right? And so, my grandmother ain't bite her tongue. My grandfather stood on business. My Uncle Ralph stood on business. My dad stayed on business. Right? And so my thing is like, you can't piss in my cup and tell me that it's lemonade. So I'm gonna be like, hey man, y'all taking this money and doing some bullshit with it, and we need this money for this community, because this is what the grant is saying. And so the accountability factor came about, and then all of a sudden, once I helped the person that brought this violence prevention stuff, or assisted, I shouldn't say I brought it because I don't want to sound egotistical, but the person that had a hand in bringing a lot of this violence, because there's a lot of great people that was doing this stuff well before me, and they're still doing this stuff. So I want to make sure I always pay homage to them, and they helped me in the midst of doing it, things that I knew that they were helping me with, and they helped me with things that I didn't even know that they was helping me with. So, but to bring it back, it's like they was doing like a lot of stuff, and I'm like, hey, bro, that you spending money on what? Paper towels and fucking wine mixers and shit. Like, but we got little kids dying out here. Like, what are we doing? We losing out $5,000-$6,000. That's supposed to go to these pop-up cookouts, and the purpose of the pop-up cookouts was to build relationships within the community.
Within the community,
produce giveaways and turkey giveaways, and we saving the money so when we could do a big ass end of year sale or end of year Christmas giveaway where we're giving away PlayStations, not just 5. We're trying to give away 100 PlayStations and Xboxes and bikes and all of this type of stuff, and we ain't got no goddamn money because you want to do some fucking open mic bullshit. So yeah, I said that shit. So whoever's listening that heard me say that open mic shit, they know who I'm talking about. So I'm gonna say it. I don't give a fuck no more. I'm sorry, but I don't mean to cuss like that. But they had me hot. And so, he's hard to work with. So the man that got y'all the money, now he's hard to work with because he's holding you accountable. Fuck out of here. So you trying to tarnish my name. You're trying to tarnish my name and say I'm hard to work with. You know the buzzwords. They want to call me everything but a nigga. They call me everything but that. So I was hard to work with. I was combative. I was this. But that same passion that I had for my people, for my Allegheny County residents, for my Wilkinsburg residents, for for everything, all the people that I'm trying to save life. Like, I don't care about money because I didn't take a bonus to give it to my staff because at the time, in the very beginning, the staff was only making $12.50 an hour, and they wanted to give me a $20,000 bonus, and I said, no, give it to them so they can get some type of incentive because after $12.50 is minimum wage, so they went up to $15.50 an hour, and it came back, and they was like, we're going to give you a $30,000 raise. Don't give it to me. Give it to them. So then they went up to like $20 an hour. And then when we started getting a lot more funding, a lot different things, I said, okay, well, now I'll take a raise as long as the staff make at the very minimum, our violence interrupters make $45,000 to $50,000 a year, including benefits.
Right.
And that's still not a livable wage. And so it was to make sure that they got a $5,000 pay increase every year as long for the lifetime of the grant. And then the goal at year 3, because it's a 5-year grant, after you go at the year 3, you go and expand it and seek other funding, right? And so you seek from local philanthropists. You seek the local athletic associates, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and try to get some money from the Steelers and try to get money for the Pirates and the professional sports, right? You try to get those things and then go for state grants and go for federal grants and all this other stuff. And then it was like, that's what the goal was again. But then it was, he's hard to work with. No. Nah, I ain't hard to work with. I just told you your breath stank when you blowing it in my fucking face. That's what I told you. And I told you that you found some money from a program that's for the community and you perverting it. So now my contract not renewed. Cool. So I did. Became an ED at some spot out in Beaver, executive director at Beaver County, got that rocking and rolling. And then my boy Martell, he hit me up and was like, bro, I'm hosting this violence prevention thing, bro. I know you done with violence prevention, but please come back down here. I just want you to see what they talking about. I get down there. They got the state there. They got representation from the governor, lieutenant governor, and they talking about we about to open up a violence prevention state director role. So if y'all know anybody that wants to apply. Now we got like 40, 50 people down there, right? And I sat and watched and I counted. And it was funny because there was a lot of people that I assisted in funding when I was at the health department. There was a lot of people that they said it. They was like, if it wouldn't be for Ross, I wouldn't even have gotten the violence prevention because I didn't even know what I was doing was violence prevention, right, at this event. So then the people from the representation from the governor was like, yo, who are you? So I started explaining to them. And then they were like, you should apply for this role. And I didn't want to do that because I liked where I was at. It was great. But my wife was like, you letting them discourage you because of what just happened with that contract. Don't let them discourage you. My homegirl from Chicago, she was like, nah, bro, don't do that. That's your purpose. Go do this, go do that. And I'm like, I ain't trying to go to the state. My father-in-law, my dad, they was all like, man, go to the state. Like, and basically what they were saying, like, nah, shit on them. Let them know, like, you really him. Like, go to the state, let them know, represent Pittsburgh, do your thing. I went to the state. I didn't even want to interview, didn't want to do none of that. Interview, did it. It was great. They love me. And then just how the universe works. As soon as I took the position, my wife had our third child, my first son, my last son, because I ain't having no more kids. But my name, my name's sake, and I'm like, damn, man, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, damn, this is great. And then she had some complications, and then they had the government shutdown, and then I'm like, I don't know if I can go back because I got to stay here for my family. So, as a father, and as a husband, and as a man, I made a decision. I said, I got to step away from that to focus on my family. And that's what I did. And so I know I gave you a long ass thing, but that's somewhat in a 20 minutes rant. That's how all of this encompasses. And so I leave it with the programs that I had my hand in rolling out, the violence interruptions, the workforce development programs through the community violence initiatives and stuff. They're still up and running. And but I had been labeled hard to work with all of a sudden because I don't allow 1 + 1 is always going to be 2 for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because so I can just imagine then, especially had they done any audits or so forth, then that means that you would have been held accountable for misappropriating funds.
There you go. Come create your procurement process, and I'm not signing my name up on nothing.
Oh, blame you. So, talk to us about the role of trauma in the cycles of violence. How deeply is unresolved trauma connected to community violence, and what does it take to interrupt that cycle at the individual and neighborhood level?
To interrupt that cycle, we got to go. I'll go answer your question backwards. To interrupt that cycle, we have to answer it. We have to respond. It has to start one person at a time, one family at a time, one house at a time, one street at a time, one block, one community, in order to resolve the community violence. Half the time, a lot of people don't realize that they're sick because we become so numb to it. We had a mass shooting here in Wilkesburg in 2016. We have several of them, but we have had one famously identified. I think it was in 2016. I apologize to the family for not knowing the exact date, if they're watching this or if anybody's watching this that knows. But I think it was 2016. There was a mass shooting in Wilkesburg. And are you familiar with the Tree of Life shooting that happened in Squirrelville with a Jewish community? A synagogue was shot.
Oh, yes.
I believe that was in 2018.
That was at the synagogue, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so once the Tree of Life mass shooting occurred, which is a catastrophe in itself, Wilkesburg was identified as a mass shooting. But prior to that, they were calling it a barbecue drive-by. That's what the local media had been saying. They weren't identifying it as a mass shooting. And so with that mass shooting, and you remember when I said something else will overshadow what happens in quote unquote bad communities or impoverished communities. So it was just and I'm just giving an example, but it was just mass barbecue drive-by in Wilkinsburg. And on later news, star quarterback signs an extension for $30 million. And you well, shit. Damn. Unborn baby killed. People slaughtered. Damn, them as human beings. And then it starts making you realize the essence of the countries, the numbness that they have for Black death, right? were sending postcards for picnics when we were lynched, and y'all would have a picnic to watch the lynching, and then you would send a postcard to your southern friends that moved up north or to the west and say, look at us, right? You're posting pictures in front of these dead bodies. You used black babies as gator bait and promoted it, right? And so it's not as openly morbid, but Black Death is Black Death, regardless of who is causing the death, right? It's death. And so realizing that trauma is passed down generationally and through DNA, getting the people to realize and not utilizing it. Some people look at it as like a cliche term, but just realizing like, no, like this is a real thing. Like living in trauma is a scary thing, and re-traumatizing yourself and trying to find a way to normalize it. Right. Like it's like as I told you, I do analogies, but it's like you take who's easier to train. You take a lion from the wild that was killing and hunting and had all of Africa to hunt, and the tiger that was all of Africa to just hunt and do what they wanted to do. And then you put them in a zoo and say this is humane, right? And you can't train that lion not to be a lion, but what you do is you have that lion and that tiger both procreate. You can train their cubs to be a caged lion, to be a caged tiger, but their trauma is being passed down of them being removed from their natural habitat, and then they'll be removed from their parent, and then they'll be trained, and you'll use them as the sideshow, as the guinea pig. So, when animals attack, I don't know if you remember that show that used to come on. Oh, when animals attack, the hell are you talking about? You put your head in that lion's mouth. So what's it supposed to do? Close it. You put your head in that alligator's mouth. You trying to be funny. That's your dumb ass fault. So what you think gonna happen? So that's where we're at right now, right? We're at a place of you keep playing with us and we're not playing. You know, it's trauma. It's traumatizing. We need help. We need help from people that look like us or people that actually mean well. And so help us. Don't just tell me you love me when there's money. Don't just show me you love me when the cameras is showing. Don't just tell me you love me when there's a photo op. Nah. Don't just tell me you love me when it's election time. Don't just tell me you love me when you trying to get a promotion at your job. Nah, bro. Do you love me is showing me you brought me groceries and I didn't ask you, but you knew I needed them.
Yes.
I'm on grass because she's your next door neighbor, not because she asked, just because you seen that it was getting high. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how you break a lot of that cycle. We gotta bring that community back from people that's really for community, not people that's doing it to get something from it, that they got something to gain. And we ain't talking about volunteering and all that shit. We talking about like, if you gonna come down to the hood and just rap with the little youngins that's on the block. You know, yes. Are you gonna come down and tell them, yo, like what they call that teen what's that thing called that they be doing now? Oh man, I know you heard of it. Teen Takeover. Yo, do that.
Oh yeah, I've heard of a lot of those that's been happening lately.
Yeah. Good look. Yeah, y'all really ain't trying to do that. You know what I mean? And volunteer services is great. Volunteer services are amazing, right? And but again, it's like we want to make sure that we keep the essence and the richness of everything that we do, because these people are brilliant and they can tell when it's not genuine. And that's the problem, is that this stuff has become, it starts off very raw, very potent, and then eventually shit get watered down. And you can always tell when it get watered down because the people that got the passion, the people that got the motion, the people that got the strength, the power, the courage to be those change agents, to say what's wrong, to say how they know it's going to make it work and make it right, they disappear. And then they get labeled as something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we fired them because they was doing this and they was doing that. But the community's like, man, that motherfucker was walking me down the aisle to say goodbye to my son when he got killed. You know what I'm saying? Like that person put money in my pocket out of his own pocket. She did this. She was cooking dinners for us when I was too messed up when my son got killed. She was cooking us dinners and bringing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and taking the kids to school and picking them up and dropping them off and helping them with their homework until I got my mind back right. And that ain't got nothing to do with her job. Right. That's community, right?
That's community.
And so when you have those people and then you pull them away and you defeat them, like I got defeated. I can't go lie. I let them defeat me at some capacity. And the people like, no, man, it's hard. It's hard when you, like I just told you, I was going to telling my grandfather goodbye. Yeah, I was Superman. Superman ain't supposed to die.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he ain't supposed to go. My granddad was 5'7". I'm 6'2", but he's 12 feet tall. He made Shaq look small. Like, but you know, that was my man's. But he died, and I'm like, Bob Watson in my head. Hey, boy, you better go to work, help them folks out. That's what you said you was gonna do. Be a man of your word. You know, and so that was it for me, man. I'm just like, I cared because I cared too much. And people are like, why you? Because I know that they're better than this. I know that they can be better than this. They want to be better than it. They don't know how. And these programs can help them be that. And they can funnel them to other programs that can help them be that. And so when you're funneling and you're funneling and you're funneling and you're funneling, and then eventually you rise to the top, you start from the bottom and you keep getting more poured into you, you're going to be at the top. But if you start pouring and then all of a sudden the shit stops being poured out and starts being scooped up, you ain't got nothing. You back at the bottom. That's bullshit. And there's nobody's calling these people out. And when you call these people out, oh, he's aggressive. Y'all be all that. Because that's how Wilkinsburg made me. You goddamn right. My grandma made me aggressive this way. You damn right. God made me aggressive. Most High made me this way because I point out your bullshit. Sure do.
Yep. And look, but I will tell you this, see, that's the old school mentality that most of us was raised with, because I can tell you, just as sure as you're saying that, you see, I have more choice words than you can imagine about people like that. And there's a lot of things that I can say about people like that I try not to get too ugly with it, but there comes that time where you have to let it go, and you have to let it go. Absolutely. It is what it is. Yeah. It is what it is. And, you know, I got to say that however that transpired, I will say this, it's their loss, but also at the same time, you know, I think with a show like this and this whole purpose is to let people know that people like you more than exist, but it's the work and the difference that you created in the community, things that you had going in the community that was doing a good thing, that those that could not stand that prosperity, they had to do something to mess that up. Mm-hmm. They had to, because the pace apparently from just understanding where you was going and how you was building that was on a pace that, you know, let me tell you something. All those folk in those underserved communities would have been doing big things by now.
Yeah. And big thing. But the messed up part about the part that I love about it the most right now is that people that are still there, they still care, and they still reach out to me. I could just tell who the ones that really still, because they'll reach out to me like, bro, how do I do this? How do I do? You do this. You do. I still help them from behind the scenes. Like, no, do this, do that. This how you do it. This how you maneuver. Don, don't quit, because don't be mad that I'm gone. I got you in this. I wanted you here because I knew you would be able to continue on this baton, run this baton. You could continue to run this marathon, this race, because you care about your community. Keep doing your thing. And I'm just one person. It ain't about me. It's about that legacy of carrying on and helping to break those cycles. So it's like, if I could just make an impact on one person, I did my job.
Right.
Because that one person is going to help another. So now that's two. And then they'll help someone, three, four, five, and it'll go on. And so go back to your question is like that's another way how you break a lot of that those generational traumas is showing someone that you care, and sometimes it's just taking the time to put that in. And everything doesn't always require a dollar amount or a policy or a program. Sometimes just being a human.
Mhm. Well, so let me ask you. This question before I move on to something else before we run out of time. But violence interrupters and credible messengers have become central figures in modern violence prevention. What is your perspective on that model, and what does it take for those individuals to be effective and to be protected in the work they do?
They have to have the right people. Everybody that is credible messengers of violence interrupters, or just because you have street credibility, doesn't necessarily make you the most um, appropriate person for that position, right? So it's like you can have all the credentials in the world as being a PhD. Doesn't make you the best doctor for this hospital or for
Right.
like that MD doesn't make you the best for this hospital. You might need someone that has a little bit more cachet, a little bit more charisma, a little bit less, whatever that person has, right? And so, but the biggest factor is training them and making sure that they are trained with the skills that they need to be successful. Because it's the same as being like, if you think about drug and alcohol, right? And if you got a person that's in recovery and they use that as their motivation, and then they go and get all of this the education, and they go and get all of the skills and all of the tools to become a drug and alcohol counselor or drug and alcohol therapist, and they do that, right, because they have that lived experience on top of the education, but they're also willing to learn consistently and get these refreshers. They'll probably be the greatest drug and alcohol counselor that agency or that places, that county, city, whatever, has seen because of that. And that's how we have to go about making sure that we're hiring the right people, not because they say the right things in the interviews. So the biggest thing was like going out with them. So going out in the community was a part of the interview. So we interview, you role play. So a lot of people could do the role play, but I want to go out. So I'd be like, Charles, you say you from Wilkinsburg. Tell me when everybody's outside. Oh, everybody be outside at like 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock at what? In the morning. No, they don't. So all right, there's a red flag, right? So let's just say you get it right. Say you say it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. All right, cool. So we walk down to the corner store that you say the area you from and that the block that you ran, and don't nobody know you. How are you credible? Nobody be like, Chucky, Charles, CK. What? Nobody says nothing to you. No one know. How are you credible? Nobody hit a horn. Nothing.
Right.
You're not credible, and you could be efficient and effective, maybe as a volunteer in the beginning, but maybe you're not ready to be that credible messenger. So, like making sure that they have that appropriate credible messenger that can be molded from the professionalism aspect of it. And so then also monitoring and making sure that they don't slip back into their old ways, because you're being put in the community that they used to do whatever they used to do in. And it's easy to slip back into that when you're working with that population again. And so making sure that these individuals are trained efficiently, supported, professional development is there, and that they're actually really credible messengers and violence interrupters. That is the biggest thing. Also, holding those agencies accountable to hold them accountable, right? And making sure that, excuse me, everything that they're claiming to be doing is being done, and you're capturing that. However, whether it be key performance indicators or whatever it is, but also hearing from the community. Like pub ed is a big thing, but the social media stuff is. So like when we would look and monitor a shooting that happened, right? I would help the staff be like, yo, don't look at who's making the post, look at the comments, right? So do it in reverse. So if you're saying, Charles, you say you're the biggest violence interrupter in whatever city you live in. And I'm like, okay, and you're the biggest, your agency's the biggest, and then I look and people in your city, and nobody shouts you out. Are you really the biggest?
Like, no, look, no, that ain't even the biggest. That ain't even close.
Yeah. And so we got to make sure that you're suitable. My homegirl texted me, say suitable. Nicole, got you, Nikki. But she told me to say suitable because that was her big thing. Is like, because she's a trainer with this stuff too. It's like making sure that you're very suitable for these roles. And in essence, with these roles, like being suitable is appropriate. So yes, we're doing street outreach, we're doing violence intervention, we're doing community drive, but you're also this is a job, right? Like you're not going to hire a mechanic to fix your furnace. You're not going to do that. You're not going to hire an HVAC or a plumber to fix your car. That's just not what you're going to do. So when you're having these professionals, they need to be experts in what they do, and we have to train them to be those experts. And that sometimes the agencies and organizations got to get out the way, right? Like it was a lot of stuff didn't make sense if I told you, oh, we got a lot of high risk individuals that are into fashion. They make money and they like to be fashionable. They like to dress to the nine. They like to do this. They like to do that. So we created a fashion show to keep them off the street and just show them, like, we got one individual. I'm just using an example: fashion design, this and that, not this. And you like, how's that got to do with violence prevention? Well, as a ED or as a program director, that's your job to like write that up to make it make sense, right, to continue to get the funding. So it's not just about bang, bang, shoot, shoot, because that's what the funders see. They want to see the other assets. They want to see the other greatness within that community, whether skills are being developed from working with these individuals consistently.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, just when it comes to community development and how you've contributed to your community to help it to grow and to be as safe as possible. What was your initial motivation in doing this, and why is this so important to you?
I've seen a lot of people doing things that were credible but not suitable, and suitable but not credible. And I've seen a lot of people saying that they were doing the work, and they probably were, whatever the work was, but it was imperative for me to get people from those communities jobs, because economics is a big thing, and to get their voices heard in spaces, excuse me, in spaces that they may have been silenced or they may have been not comfortable speaking out at. So that was one of my biggest things. And I kept hearing people saying that they're doing this model, like this cure like model, and this form of violence prevention model, but no like foundational approach to it, no conventional approach, right? And so I'm like, well, how can we do this uniformly? How can we make this a very uniform across the board in Allegheny County, where everybody's utilizing the model as the baseline, and you can add on to it, right? Like, this is the foundation, and you just add on to it. You add the mental health, you add the behavioral health, you add economics, you add personal development, you do these different things. But what's the foundation of this? And there, at the time, there wasn't a foundation for this. And so it was just like, foundationally, let's create a solid foundation for people to build on and sustain on. But I want to make sure that we get people that actually can have real impact, that are not like I just said, they're not invited into those rooms and into those spaces for whatever reason, whether they're not as polished as they would like them to be, or they're too outspoken, or they're too ghetto, or they're not articulate enough, or whatever the reason is. Everybody has a place in that space in order to do it. And so my biggest thing was making sure that it was from a holistic aspect and not in the layman's terms of like doctors and lawyers, but I mean like high risk individuals need to be in these spaces too, with elected officials, with law enforcement. Well, not as much law enforcement, but law enforcement has to have a place in that for the acceptance of it. But um, just making sure any and everybody that's impacted by the community had their voice heard and validated in that space, and it was implemented from everybody's perspective of what would be could be used to save lives and stop people from grieving and minimize homicides because one is too many. So it'd be great to have like zero homicides, and that's how I kept looking at it as like the number zero. How could we not have any homicides and not have any shootings? What would be the best bet?
Okay. So then as you think about today, right now today, if your grandfather could see you, what would he say of the work that you're doing right now?
Well, he told me I would have been cussing too much just now, but he also, I think he'd be proud of me. Him and my granny, my uncle Ralph, would be proud of me because I use my passion for purpose. But they would also be upset that he would say I let them beat me because I gave up. But I didn't. I gave
I
up.
wouldn't say you give up. I wouldn't say that you gave up. I mean, sometimes that comes away where you get fed up, but I'm sure that there's probably other avenues that you're going to pursue that you're going to make this, reemerge and be even better.
I'm trying to figure what that looks like because I talk to a lot of people that's decision makers, and they always like you gotta get back into it. And I'm just trying to figure out how that's going to look and what's that's going to be, um, because it has to be right uh, for all aspects, not just for me, but it has to be something that's going to be great for the community and the people that I'm serving. And so I'm just trying to figure out what that looks like.
Okay, so then can you tell us what's the next thing that's coming for Ross? What's Ross going to do next?
I might look into consulting right now. I think that's one of my passions is looking at uh, process of improvement, program, staff stability, and then partner with some folks and maybe create my own violence prevention initiative and take it nationally and then globally eventually because there's a lot of a need out there because obviously everybody's saying the same thing throughout the entire United States with things because it's very trendy. Social media helps that trend to expand and grow. And so having like-minded people um, with the same passion and focus and that are smarter and better than me in different things and then utilize my strong suits but my weak points they're strong at and just do it from a functionality aspect. So I think essentially I'm more than likely going to get back in violence prevention. Um, Not sure how that capacity is going to look, but I'm planning it out with a lot of folks right now.
Okay. Well, there's a whole lot that we didn't actually get a chance to touch on. So I'm going to ask. I hope that we can have you back,
Yeah.
because this was truly enlightening, and it also was something that I know that people got a lot from because there was an enormous amount of people watching.
Oh, was there? Oh, good, good.
And we're instead of eight, I forgot to mention this to you before we got on, but we are actually on 17 channels live.
Oh, well, that's great to know.
So
Thanks for telling me after the fact. I
yeah, but I
appreciate
mean,
that.
but see, it was a wonderful thing because I gotta say that I don't know. I just after we booked the show and everything, I will tell you that learning more about the work that you were doing And, especially for the place that you're located in, that was more than just intriguing to me because, I've been to Pittsburgh so many times, but I've only stepped over into Wilkinsburg just a little bit one time, And so that was the thing that was so intriguing because I'm like, there's got to be a connection. That's all I was thinking. I'm like, there's got to be a connection because when I look at those two places, it seems like they're a little bit similar to me. So I don't know that for a fact, but that's what it seemed like to me.
No, they're the same. I mean, anybody that's like a 10-mile radius, you just put Pittsburgh on your zip code. You usually put Pittsburgh, PA, and then you just put a different zip code, and that's how they know. But everybody's from quote unquote from Pittsburgh if you live in Allegheny County, to be honest with you. The city of Pittsburgh is the city of Pittsburgh, but Wilkinsburg, Pittsburgh is relatively all the same.
So in closing, do you have any words of wisdom and encouragement that you'd like to leave for our audience?
Keep your purpose, your passion, and continue to strive, and don't let anybody knock you off your circle. Stay grounded, stay humble, and surround yourself with like-minded people and people that have your best interest in hand, and don't get discouraged by setbacks.
Would you like to leave some social media contacts where they can contact you via social media?
So I don't really use social media, but I'll tell you your name. I got to look them up. Sorry. I'm not big on that. Do you want me to put it in the chat or just say it out loud?
You can to have the audience if there's someone watching the show that wants to connect with you.
Yeah. So best bet is on Facebook. Facebook, I'm just Ross Watson Jr. I don't have the A in my name on Facebook, so it's just Ross Watson Jr.
So let me get ready. Let me close the show here. I have a monologue that I'm going to do to close the show. But after I close the show, do you have a few minutes to stick around after I close?
Yeah.
All righty. For those of you that are watching tonight, I appreciate your full support in watching, Ross actually give us some identifiers and help us to understand what building community is. I suggest for those of you that are really interested in doing that and want to learn more, that you reach out to him on Facebook, because I think it's really important, to learn from someone that's doing it, learn from the best in order to build. And for those of you that are watching on any of our channels, especially our YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed, I ask if you would please support us by subscribing and enabling all notifications to our LinkedIn channel, and stay involved, and you'll be able to catch all the shows live, as well as you're able to go back and watch all of our great guests that have been here on the show. So in closing, what a conversation. What a human being. As we close tonight's episode of American Black and White, I want to sit for just a moment in the weight and the wonder of what we just shared. Ross Watson came to this platform not to perform, not to impress, not to recite talking points. He came to tell the truth. And the truth he told was layered. The truth of a community called Wilkinsburg that shaped a son who would go on to shape communities in return. The truth of a father, Robert Watson, who showed him what principled manhood looks like. The truth of his grandmother and grandfather. The truth of an uncle, Ralph, who trailblazing spirit gave him permission to push past every ceiling. Tonight was not just an interview. Tonight was a testimony to everyone watching in Pittsburgh, in Atlanta, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in every city where violence has taken someone you loved, where trauma has settled into the bones of your neighborhood, where people are trying to figure out whether healing is even possible. Ross's story and his work are a direct message to you. It is possible. Not easy, not fast, not without cost, but possible. And the people who make it possible are not always the ones in the headlines. They are the ones in the trenches, at the tables, in the streets, doing the sacred, unsexy, indispensable work of keeping communities alive. America in Black and White exists to give those people a platform because their stories are America's story. In its complexity, its pain, its beauty, and its promise. Thank you, Ross Watson, for his time, his honesty, and his extraordinary life's work. Thank you to our viewers for watching, for sharing, and for staying committed to this conversation that this nation so desperately needs. I'm your host, Charles King, and this has been America in Black and White, Season 4, Episode 105. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and join us for the next conversation. Until then, stay grounded in your truth, rooted in your history, and relentless in your service. Good night. Join us tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our guest is going to be Mr. Wes Ferguson, and we will have another great show for you here on America in Black and White. You all have a great evening.